Chapter 3: The History of Money. Let me take you on a journey through time, because to really understand money today, we need to look back at where it all started. And trust me, the story of money is way crazier than you think. It's a story of cows and shells, of kings and empires, of trust and betrayal, and of technology reshaping the world again and again. So let's rewind to the very beginning, before money ever existed. Imagine being a hunter-gatherer thousands of years ago. You've just killed a deer and you don't need all that meat for yourself. You want tools. So you go to someone who makes stone axes and say, "Hey, can I trade some of this meat for an axe?" If they're hungry, the deal works. But if they already have food, you're out of luck. You're stuck with meat that is going to rot before you find another trade. That is the problem with bartering. It is slow, it's clunky, and it works only when two people have exactly what the other one wants exactly at the same time. Economists call this the double coincidence of wants, and it's basically the Achilles heel of barter. Now, humans are clever. We realized this was not working. So we started experimenting with commodity money. That means using something with real value that most people want. Different cultures chose different things. In some parts of Africa, we used cowrie shells. In Rome, salt was so valuable that soldiers were paid with it. In fact, the word salary comes from salarium, which literally means payment in salt. In ancient Mesopotamia, barley was money. And in many parts of the world, livestock, cows, goats, sheep, they were money too. It made sense because people always needed food and animals reproduced, which meant your wealth could literally grow. But commodities were not perfect either. Animals die, barley rots, salt is bulky to transport, and shells can be found in abundance if you just go to the right beach. The problem with most commodities is that they're either not durable enough, not scarce enough, or not portable enough to really work as money across large societies. So humans leveled up. We discovered that metals like gold and silver worked much better. They were scarce, durable, and universally valued. A gold coin does not rot, it does not rust, and it doesn't evaporate. And because it is rare, people across the world started trusting it. This was huge. For the first time, you could travel long distances, even across cultures that did not share a language, and still trade because gold was recognized everywhere. That's when money really started becoming a global language. The first official coins were minted around 600 BCE by King Elias in Lydia, which is modern-day Turkey. These coins were made of a naturally occurring mix of gold and silver called electrum. Suddenly, trade exploded. Coins were standardized, meaning people did not have to weigh and test every little nugget of metal. They could trust that the stamp on the coin guaranteed its value. But of course, wherever there is money, there is temptation. Kings realized they could cheat by shaving coins, mixing them in cheaper metals, or diluting the purity. It is the world's first example of governments inflating the money supply, and the people were always the ones who paid the price. As civilizations expanded, carrying big bags of coins became inconvenient and dangerous. Enter paper money. This was first invented in China during the Tang Dynasty around the 7th century, and it really took off during the Song Dynasty. Merchants started using paper notes that represented a claim on coins or precious metals held in storage. This was brilliant because it was way easier to carry paper than metal. Marco Polo even wrote about how amazed he was to see paper money being used in China when he visited in the 1200s. Europe was slower to adopt paper money, but eventually banks got in on the game. People would deposit gold or silver with a bank and receive a paper receipt. Those receipts became tradable. Over time, people stopped bothering to exchange the receipts for actual gold because the paper itself was trusted enough. That's the moment when money shifted from being something with intrinsic value to being a symbol, a promise. And promises, as history shows us, can be broken. By the 20th century, most of the world had moved on to what we call the gold standard. This meant that currencies were tied to gold at fixed rates. You could take a US dollar and exchange it for a set amount of gold at the bank. The system gave people confidence because the money was backed by something real. But governments found this system too restrictive. Wars are expensive. Governments wanted the freedom to print money without being tied down by gold reserves. So, like the kings of old, bit by bit, governments chipped away at the gold standard. The big turning point came in 1944 with the Bretton Woods Agreement, which pegged world currencies to the US dollar, and the dollar itself was supposed to be backed by gold. But in 1971, President Richard Nixon ended that system entirely. He announced that the US would no longer exchange dollars for gold. Overnight, the world entered the era of pure fiat money. From that moment on, money was no longer backed by anything tangible. It became money because governments said so by decree. And that's where we still are today. Our dollars, euros, yen, Kenya shillings, they're just paper and numbers on a screen. They have value because we all agree that they do, and because governments enforce it with legal systems and taxes and fines. It works, but it's fragile. History shows us that every time society abandons sound money, money that is scarce and stable, they eventually run into problems: inflation, debt, collapse. It is a pattern that has repeated over and over again. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. The history of money is really the history of trust. With barter, trust was limited. You had to directly know what the other person wanted. With commodities, trust expanded. If everyone wanted salt, it worked. With gold and silver, trust went global. With paper money, trust shifted from physical objects to institutions. And with fiat money, trust now rests entirely on governments and central banks. Each step solved a problem, but each step also introduced new risks. Let's not forget how money has shaped societies. Empires rose and fell on the strength of their money. The Roman Empire debased its coins so heavily that eventually nobody trusted them. The collapse of trust contributed to the decline of Rome. In Weimar Germany in the 1920s, hyperinflation was so bad that people carried wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy bread. In Zimbabwe in the 2000s, inflation was so extreme that trillion-dollar bills were printed and they still couldn't buy basic food. Over and over, history tells the same story. When money breaks, society breaks. But the story of money is not just about collapse. It's also about innovation. Credit cards in the 1950s changed the way people spent money, making it easier to buy now, pay later. Online banking in the 2000s turned money into numbers on screens. PayPal, Venmo, MPESA made money digital, fast, and global. And now, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are pushing money into a whole new era, one where money might not be controlled by governments at all. So why does this history matter? Because when you see the journey, you realize that money is not fixed. It evolves. It adapts to human needs and technology. And right now, we are living through one of those turning points. Fiat money is showing cracks, inflation, debt, inequality, and Bitcoin is emerging as a new alternative. Money has always been about solving problems. Butter was too clunky, commodities were too fragile, gold was too heavy, the paper was too easy to manipulate, fiat is too easy to print. Each new form of money was an answer to the flaws of the old system. The history of money is a story of constant problem solving, and Bitcoin is simply the latest chapter. So why do we need to understand this history? Because it shows us that money is not permanent. The system we use today is not the system we will always use. And if history teaches us anything, it's that the next form of money will arrive when trust in the current one collapses. And that brings us to the big question. Is Bitcoin the next chapter? Is it the new gold standard for the digital age? To answer that, we first have to understand how Bitcoin itself works. But before we even get there, remember this. Every empire, every civilization, every society has been defined by its money. Money is not just a tool, it's a foundation of trust, cooperation, and survival. And when money changes, the world changes with it. So the next time you hold a 1,000 shilling note or a dollar bill, a euro or a yen, think about the thousands of years of history behind it. Think about the farmers buttering wheat, the Romans shaving coins, the Chinese inventing paper money, and the Americans breaking from gold. Think about how each step was an answer to a problem, but also a setup for the next challenge. And ask yourself, what's next? Because the story of money is not over. It is still being written. And you and I, we are living right in the middle of it.